Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast, and welcome to the preview show where we look at the fights coming up in the next week and anything coming up in the boxing schedule this week. That means Jaron Ennis versus Stanionis in America, as well as some interesting fights that have just been announced, some silly contract discussions as well, and we'll get all onto that before the end of the show, as well as our previews on the Boxing News app. So subscribe for all that good stuff, and for our next episode, which is our 100th special, and if that's not worth subscribing for, then God knows what, maybe we're not the channel for you. So straight into the good stuff. Jaron Boots Ennis back in the ring, always an exciting prospect against a top champion in Stanionis. How much are we looking forward to it?
To be honest, I am looking forward to it. I'm keen. I'm going to have to double check to see what time it actually starts in the UK, but I would be keen to stay up and watch it because I think I don't want to jinx it because I've jinxed too many fights recently, but I think it could be quite an entertaining fight depending on how Ennis wants to sort of come into it, because Stanionis is very much a fighter that likes to be on the front foot, likes to pressure, likes to fight in the pocket. So I don't know whether Boots is going to try and trade with him and trust his own power, or whether he'll try and fight a bit more on the back foot and outbox him. But I think it could make for a very interesting clash of styles and be quite an interesting fight to watch.
Yeah, it's another big fight, this weekend, and it's good to see Boots Ennis back out there. And obviously, he had his last fight. I can't remember when it was, but it was a rematch, wasn't it? Jakudsian or something like that. But yeah, it's great to see him back out. And like Ben said, this fight has got all the ingredients to be something special. But we're not going to say what we normally say, because last weekend we said this is going to be fight of the weekend, I'll say it quietly, between, David Adley and Jamie TKV, I said after the build-up to that, and look what happened there. So I'm not going to say that, but yeah, for me, this is kind of sort of snuck up on us a little bit. We've been given a lot of good boxing. I think April so far this year is probably going to be the best month for boxing, because it's every single weekend we've got something big and something to look forward to. And yeah, it starts this weekend with a big fight, a huge fight in Jaron Boots Ennis' career so far. I think this is potentially his biggest fight yet. And it's in Atlantic City, and it's in front of his home crowd, so he needs to perform. That comes with pressure, like we said. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing Boots out again. And if he can get the win, he can move on to special things, and he can start calling himself in that division, going over to Saudi Arabia and calling out some of the big names over there for big paydays.
Yeah, I do agree in terms of the fact that you said it's the biggest fight of his career, and I think it will be. And I think Boots Ennis it's such an exciting fight. He's so fun. He's so talented. We know all of that, but he's going to need to be on top of his game against someone like Stanionis, who, let's be real, if his name wasn't Stanionis and he was an American native, then he would probably be hyped far more than he is. Being from Eastern Europe, you do have to fight a little bit more for those opportunities. He's got himself the WBA world title, and then Boots Ennis' IBF is on the line. So that in itself always makes for a good fight when both fighters have something to win and something to lose. Style-wise, like Ben said, it's just that kind of technical back foot boxer versus kind of front forward pressure. It, generally speaking, makes for a good fight, unless one of them is a class above the other, which I don't think is going to be the case in this one. And so, once again, without saying the words that curse these fights like we always do, there's no reason why this shouldn't be an entertaining watch. Maybe not one I'm going to stay up super late for, because I need my beauty sleep, as you can tell. But yeah, it's a good fight nonetheless.
Yeah, Stanionis, I think it's fair to say, is probably one of the lesser known world champions.
Yeah, I'd say
he's
so.
The first Lithuanian world champion. He's got a good pedigree. He's got a good amateur background. I think he won a gold medal at the European Games. So he's definitely no slouch. He's obviously there on merit, and I think he could cause Boots some issues this weekend. If he seems like a very big hitter, obviously likes to stand in the pocket and let his hands go. So Boots is gonna definitely have to be fully concentrated to make sure he don't get clocked or anything, because we know in boxing, once you get hit with one of those big shots, it very much changes the whole context of a fight. So he's definitely going to have to be switched on, and I am very much looking forward to it. Hopefully it's not on too late, so I don't have to stay up too late to watch it. Otherwise it'll be a watch it when you get up in the morning job. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And it's a great card as well. You know, Ray Ford's making his return. It's good to see him back out in action. And Omari Jones, which Sam talked very highly about a couple of weeks back. You know, when was that performance? I think that was in Orlando on the Edgar Berlanga undercard. He looked very special that night. And it's good to see a prospect coming out quickly again. You know, we talked about with Pat Brown the other week saying that he made his professional debut, Olympian, turning over into the professional ranks. It's now, you know, you want to see him active. You want him to build up. This year is going to be all about getting as many fights as possible. And then next year, you're going to be looking at making that step up where your opponent's going to be having a full camp and you're going to be taking on someone like that. But it's good to see him back out, because you look at American boxing and in a way there's big names there, and, you know, the future's it is looking bright with Omari Jones because he had a decent debut, and looking forward to seeing him back. And also for Ray Ford, you know, he had a disappointing kind of 2024, obviously over in Saudi Arabia on the 5v5 against Nick Ball. Some people had him winning that fight. Obviously, he didn't get the decision that night, but, you know, it's good to see him back out in action, and, you know, hopefully he can have a big, you know, a good start to his campaign in 2025, and then hopefully push on in the later part of the year. And who knows who he can get an opponent for, because he's probably looking at world titles. And it's the same in the main event. Whoever wins that is going to be looking to unify even more. It's a great weekend of boxing and a great card. And I don't know if I'm going to be staying up. I'm a bit like Sam. I don't need my beauty sleep. It's going to be good.
Yeah, you mentioned those other fights. You know, Raymond Ford is definitely one I'm looking forward to, because, like you say, it was so narrow. The margins between him and Nick Ball was so fine. And, you know, when you look at how their two careers have gone now, you know, Nick Ball's had two really great fights since, or at least two. And Ray Ford's, you know, had to work himself back up now at a new weight at super featherweight. And when you kind of compare those two things next to each other, you think, you know, the fine line between them, and they've kind of had to go in separate ways. And I think he will come good, and he'll be back in world title fights soon. But at a new weight, you do need to sort of build yourself up slightly, particularly because he's not, you know, he wasn't around at world title level for a huge amount of time. He obviously won his title in such dramatic fashion, and then was almost instantly whisked away to Saudi Arabia to put it all on the line against Nick Ball. So great things to come, hopefully, from Raymond Ford, and another big performance. But like you say, Omari Jones is the one that I'm probably more excited for, and hopefully will be on earlier in the night as well because of his position in his career. And I was so impressed with him last time, and there's always hype coming into it with good amateurs, and I think he delivered to a degree where they don't always deliver, and he really did deliver, and he was impressive, and he was physical and big and fast, and, you know, what more do you need?
Yeah, I agree with you. He did look very impressive in his debut, and it's just American boxing. They just seem to keep churning out a conveyor belt of talented prospects. Like, it feels like every other month there's just this new American prospect to watch, and Omari Jones is very much top of that list, I think. And in terms of the mindset he's got, I was looking at some of the stuff he was speaking about. He'd done like a little interview with Matchroom a few weeks ago before his debut, and just the way his sort of confidence and his belief in himself and the plans he's got going forward, I think, will make it very interesting to watch his career sort of unfold. So shame for Ray Ford. I think Ray Ford's moving up a weight class, so he's not fighting a super featherweight anymore.
No, so he's now at super feather. He was at feather, sorry.
Oh, he is at super feather, yeah. Because I was going to say the super featherweight, the IBF title at super featherweight is vacant, so him and Andres Cortez, I think, would make for a good fight. The Cortez is just coming off the win against Abraham Nova, one of the most entertaining fighters to watch, or certainly one of the best walkouts with that big mascot that follows him round. But Cortez picked up a really good win there against Nova, so I think Ray Ford and Cortez for that vacant IBF title would be a good fight to get on if they could get that on in the future. And obviously he picks up a world title again at that new weight class and builds from there then.
I think Ray Ford as well, he's been given an opponent in Thomas Matisse to potentially make a statement, I think. And, he's coming in, his opponent, Matisse, obviously got stopped in his last fight, has taken Isaac Cruz the distance though, so he could potentially cause him some problems. But this is the sort of fight where you want Ray Ford to go out there and show his very best, because we've seen, I remember last year we talked about back in December about one of our finishes of our year, fights of the year. I think I want to say Ray Ford won fight of the year because of that final, 20 seconds in Quebec in Canada. He was losing that fight. He had to get the stoppage. And when you thought, he's just missed his opportunity out of nowhere, gets that stoppage win. So yeah, Ray Ford's got a lot about him, and I'm looking forward to seeing, like I said, what he's got left. And he's got an opponent on Saturday night, in my opinion, that he can make a statement and make a very good statement for everyone in that division that, yeah, I'm coming, I've moved up, but I'm also not messing about as well. I want to get going as quickly as possible here.
And then before we move on to the predictions on the Boxing News app, I'll let you boys get them loaded so we don't have that awkward pause where we all sort of mumble to ourselves while we load them up.
We've got our home Wi-Fi this week, so it shouldn't be that slow. It
should be better. But the other fight that I really like on this card, or a fighter that I'm really interested to look at, is Shakram Giyasov, who Olympic silver medalist in Rio in 2016, really exciting fighter. And the WBA have ordered him as the mandatory for the winner of the main event and allowed him to fight in a non-title fight on the card. So realistically, whoever wins between Boots and Stanionis will have to agree a deal with Giyasov, I think, within 120 days. So that will probably be the winner of the next fight. And once again, talking about amateur pedigree in Shakram Giyasov, Olympic silver medal doesn't get much better. Well, it gets one better than that, which is an Olympic gold medal, which he obviously lost out in. But that's a really interesting fight just to keep an eye on in terms of when he comes out of that one. And straight into the predictions. Tapmir Smalls versus Earl Bascom, welterweight 8-rounder this time. Lots of welterweight fights on the card. Ben, we'll start with you. What's your prediction for this one? And then after you, Harry.
I'm going to go Smalls by decision.
Well, Earl Bascom is from Devonshire, Bermuda. So back the Brit in a way, but no, I think Smalls gets the stoppage win.
Yeah, I've gone stoppage as well for Tapmir Smalls at welterweight. And the next up, Shakram Giyasov, like I mentioned, welterweight. Now, this is a tough one because I really rated him big in that one, but he is fighting an Argentinian, and we all know what that means. So I'm going for a Giyasov points decision. What about you, Harry?
Same, completely agree. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Like you said, Giyasov, he seems something very decent, obviously very good amateur, but yeah, I think he wins via points.
Yeah, I've gone the same as well because I'm following Sam's lead of never trusting an Argentinian to be stopped, so I'm going by a points decision as well.
Yeah, they never get stopped. It's a known fact. Arturo Popoca versus Cristian Cato, super bantamweight 10-rounder. Now, this is a slightly more difficult one to call, and for that, I'm going to start with you, Harry, and then on to Ben.
Oh, thank that. Sorry, there was a little bit of a cut there. Who's going first?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No, only joking. Popoca points decision.
I'm going Cato decision.
Oh, I like it. I'm going Popoca decision as well. Raymond Ford versus Thomas Matisse, super featherweight 10-rounder. Like you said, Harry, this is a man who's maybe not easy to stop in Matisse, but that Ford is going to want to make a statement against, and I think it's going to be a points decision statement for Raymond Ford. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I'm going points decision as well. I think he'll go the full 10 rounds.
Just to be a little bit different, so we're not boring. Raymond Ford knockout.
I like it. I enjoy the variation. The next one, Jaron Boots Ennis, Stanionis, the main event, obviously welterweight 12-rounder for the IBF and the WBA world title. Harry, it's going to be you to kick it off. How would you think this one's going to end?
Ennis via points decision, but close, I think. Perhaps split as well.
Fair enough. What about you, Ben?
I'm actually agreeing with him. I am fully agreeing with him. I was going to say the exact same thing. I think it would be very close, but I think Ennis picks a decision win up.
I think Ennis is going to get a late stoppage. I think the ref's going to call it late. It's a bold call, I know, and probably not a very smart one either. But it is the decision I'm going to make. So I'm just going to do the rounds quickly in my head. And it's going to be somewhere around... What? It won't let me go any higher. I can't go over 50 rounds.
Yeah,
So
50 max. Isn't it?
Is it? Oh, yeah, I can't do maths.
And this man's been playing darts. Unbelievable.
I really can't do maths, can I? That's all right. Well, I'll let you know,
46
mate.
I've gone for.
I've gone for 48, which is what I averaged the other day when I beat my dad. So, you know, what can I say?
Not bad.
You know, what? Not bad at
Watch
all.
out, Luke Littler.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet. Maybe Fluke Littler was what they'll be calling me after that one. Back onto the boxing and things that are coming up, obviously. The big fight we mentioned that's been announced in a certain football stadium over the summer, same night as another stadium fight, which is frustrating. But with football stadiums, you know it's always difficult to get the right dates. Fabio Wardley versus, and this is a name we haven't said for a while on the podcast, Jarrell Big Baby Miller. It's been a long time. One of the OGs of the channel that we first sort of started our hate on very early on, thanks to a certain Harry who started it off. And you know what? It was a good little fun gag that we kept for probably the first 20 episodes or so. So if you've been around for a long time, you'll enjoy that one. But as a fight, Fabio Wardley versus Jarrell Miller, I don't know about you boys. I'm looking forward to that.
It'd make for an interesting fight. I think, yeah, it'd be a good watch in terms of a fan's perspective, but I've already stated I don't think I just don't understand how he keeps getting the opportunities. Jarrell Miller, like, it wasn't even the fact that he openly, like, cheated, like, and admitted to cheating heading into that Anthony Joshua fight, which when you're in a sport like boxing and we know the dangers of it, like, if he had gone into that fight without getting caught, you never know what would have happened and how much that alters Anthony Joshua's career or his life going forward or whatever else. So I don't think there's no place for people like that in the sport. But the thing is, he sells fights because he's a loudmouth American who knows how to sell them. So they're going to keep giving him opportunities, but very much hoping the Fabio Wardley gets the job done. He's been on a career progression, one of the best in British heavyweight boxing, so hopefully he keeps it going and gets that big shot at a world title, which is crazy to see considering where he was and where people probably placed him in the rankings a few years ago.
Yeah, I completely agree with Ben. When he was first announced, you're like, oh, what a fight, unbelievable fight, fair play. You know, stadium fight, Fabio Wardley in his hometown of Ipswich against Jarrell Miller. Oh, okay. Jarrell Miller should not be anywhere near a boxing ring. But one thing you are guaranteed with Jarrell Miller, if you can put that to one side, is he can sell a fight and he can get you excited for a fight. And that's what you're going to get on June 7th, I think. You're going to get a very entertaining fight. The two are going to go head-to-head in a press conference as we are filming this afternoon. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of antics he comes forward with, because Fabio Wardley's the sort of fighter that can take it and also can dish it out. So it's going to be a very good build-up to this fight. But surely there's other heavyweights that deserve an opportunity like this. You know, Jarrell Miller, you know, we've talked heavily on this podcast about what he's done in the past, and it's probably stained his career in a way. And, you know, he shouldn't be in a boxing ring. We shouldn't be awarding someone with a massive payday and a massive fight after what he's done. And, you know, when he fought Daniel Dubois, I thought that was it for him. I thought, yeah, we're not going to see Jarrell Miller over this side of the pond ever again. He's going to just fight over in America. But yeah, to see him back over here is a little bit disappointing. But on the other hand of that argument, it's going to be a very entertaining fight and a very good watch. But yeah, hopefully Fabio Wardley can knock him out. That's my early prediction. I hope he does, and we can maybe perhaps, you know, Jarrell Miller he can send him back to America, Fabio Wardley, and we might never see him again in a boxing ring. But you look at other names that he could have potentially fought, and a lot of people were predicting that it was Kubrat Pulev it's believed now that Kubrat Pulev is probably going to be fighting Moses Ataima. So that was gone. There's no other names in the heavyweight division. You know, everyone's got their own fights lined up, haven't they? So it's a weird sort of fight that you can get excited for, but then you also have in the back of your mind, you're thinking, this man should not be getting these opportunities after what he's done in the past.
Yeah, that is a difficulty, but ultimately, the boxing commissions and associations and whatnot have allowed him to continue fighting, and at that point, for me, I think what this actually represents is just style-wise a good fight for Fabio Wardley at this stage. This is a man that in his last 2 fights got a very late stoppage loss to Daniel Dubois. It took Daniel Dubois a long, long time to break him down, and Daniel Dubois is obviously now the IBF world champion. And then the one after that, Andy Ruiz, who there was a draw with, and Andy Ruiz, albeit he's not in his heyday now, but on his heyday, beat the very best of the time. So it's going to be a challenge for Fabio Wardley. I don't think it's going to be a case of he's going to be able to just walk Miller down and do what he wants and get the stoppage. He's going to have to really work. And from that point of view, I think it'll be a really good test for him at this stage of his career. The kind of performance that will help him then step up onto that world stage where he and many people want him to be. So I take your boys' points in terms of that we shouldn't see him, but I think that's a decision out of our control. And so from that point of view, I'm happy for Fabio Wardley for it as a fight, and I can put my disagreements with Jarrell Miller to the side for just a moment. And whilst on the topic of disagreements, boxer Liam Cameron, Ben Whittaker, a bizarre set of situation or a bizarre scenario that you can't imagine it happening in any other case in boxing, really. But a 12-round fight has been negotiated and signed by Liam Cameron, but that was an error. It was meant to be a 10-round. So as far as Liam Cameron's concerned, it's going to be a 12-round fight, or he's going to be buying himself more than a new car or house possibly. But what do we make of this whole situation first and foremost? And then what are the ramifications for that as a fight?
I think it's made boxer look very silly. The fact that obviously that Liam Cameron went on to TalkSport and basically stated that they were trying to keep it hush-hush, wouldn't let him speak about it, cut parts of interviews he'd done, and he's openly shading now, and it's just made him look even worse. And I think even though he had nothing to do with it, obviously Ben Whittaker, he's already under immense pressure from everything that people are throwing at him, calling him a quitter from that first fight. And now, even just these little things, even though he wasn't probably anything to do with setting that contract up, it just adds that bit more pressure on him because Liam Cameron's got those little digs. This fight week coming up now, he can keep prodding at him, keep, trying to get in his head. And I think there's a lot more pressure on Ben Whittaker heading into this rematch than it is Liam Cameron. I feel like he's got everything he needed out of it, Cameron. He impressed in the first fight. I think it was a close fight. People, I think, make it out as if Whittaker was highly up against it for the whole 5 rounds. I don't think that was the case. He was in a tough test, no doubt. But Liam Cameron's got himself a nice Queensberry deal now. He's got this rematch he probably would have been paid well for. And I see it as a win-win situation for him. But it's going to make for an interesting fight week now with all the antics that have already gone on. And I'm very much looking forward to it, and hopefully we'll be up there in Birmingham on fight night to watch it.
Yeah, let's not forget, it's going to be a great fight. That's one thing I think we can guarantee. The last fight obviously ended in dramatic fashion, and I think we learned a lot about Ben Whittaker that night last year in Riyadh, where perhaps, if he gets tested, he perhaps, in a way, some people are saying that he quit. I think that's a bit harsh. Obviously, I've never been chucked over a top rope and had someone who's 14, 15 stone land on top of me, so I don't know what that feeling's like. But I think Liam Cameron's team now should be demanding as much money as possible for every round. All right, you said we signed a contract for 12 rounds, that's fine, but it's $100,000 for every round you take off this fight. Something ridiculous like that, just to get extra pay, because boxing obviously isn't the best. Liam Cameron's probably not going to win this fight against Ben Whittaker on Easter, is he? Let's be honest. He's got a good chance, but if, he wants to guarantee a future for himself. So I'm interested in it, but like I said, it has made boxer look very silly here, and for Liam Cameron to go out on TalkSport and talk about that, and the man that's laughing at the moment is Frank Warren. Frank Warren and Ben Shalom are obviously best mates. It's just made their rivalry in a way a lot more interesting, and it'll be interesting to see now actually what happens if it is going to be a 10 fight, because boxer could come out, Ben Whittaker could come out after all of this and has gone to Ben Shalom. Actually, hang on a minute. He's saying, I don't want a 12-round fight. Well, I'm going to prove him wrong. Perhaps that's the attitude from Ben Whittaker, but there's a lot of pressure on him to deliver in this fight. So, I'm looking forward to it. It's a decent card as well. I think on April 20th up in Birmingham, Fraser Clark's making his return against one of the greatest heavyweights in Ebenezer Tete. Your favourite fighter as well, Sam's returning as well. So it's a great Easter. You'll have your lamb dinner, and then you have the boxing then for the Sunday evening. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, all of the above, like you said, makes boxer look bad. It's not ideal for Ben Whittaker, and I think you say Liam Cameron, this isn't a fight that he necessarily is going to win, and I think that's probably harsh on him, because I think the way he physically imposed himself, who's a better boxer if we're talking skill-wise alone? Of course, Ben Whittaker's a better, more skillful boxer. But it isn't just boxing in terms of you're not hitting a bag. There's a man in front of you who's going to be hitting you back. And if you can't make a dent in him, like he couldn't in the first fight, and you're starting to look like you tire like he did in the first fight, well, that's going to cause you an awful lot of problems. And then you add an extra 2 championship rounds on the end of that, where you sort of say, well, this really makes or breaks fighters. And you start to think, the odds are starting to stack a little bit better in Liam Cameron's favour if he does keep the 12 rounds. So it will be interesting. I don't think Ben Whittaker's got the power to knock out or stop Liam Cameron. And so if there are 12 rounds, he's going to have to do it over 12 rounds. And I think that's going to be a tough ask for him. But again, I've said this a number of times, I really like Ben Whittaker. I can see why a lot of people dislike him, and I think we've got the benefit of having met him down in Cardiff, and you can tell that Ben Whittaker as a human being is a lovely guy, and he's not the guy necessarily that steps in the ring, and I think he's moving away from that sort of style a little bit in terms of how he used to go about boxing and acting outside of the ring. So I think we'll see an interesting fight ultimately, and does this add a little bit of extra sauce to it? Yeah, probably. And if it means that Liam Cameron gets a few O's in the bank account, then I'm buzzing for him. Or if it means that Ben Whittaker's going to have to do it over 12 rounds, then that makes it even more of an enticing matchup from the first one. So albeit at boxer's expense, I think it's a plus for the fans and a plus for Liam Cameron. So I think that pretty much. Oh, sorry. Have you got something important to say?
Well, on BoxRec, I know we don't want to. Normally, we don't talk highly of BoxRec, but they've got question mark on the rounds.
I like that.
So they still don't know.
I don't see how they can sanction a 12-round fight without it being for a title, though.
You can. It is possible. It is possible. Dave Allen has done it on a number of occasions. He's fought for 12 rounds just because he fancies it. For some reason, you can do it.
That's fair enough.
It's just unorthodox.
I think it'll end up being 10 rounds. I think it will end up being 10 rounds.
But how much is that going to cost?
You'll pay for your mistakes, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got enough money, haven't they? Though, so okay.
I'm sure. Yeah, it will be interesting to see. We'll have to wait and see for that one. But we wanted to give our sort of thoughts on it originally. No doubt before this podcast comes out, there'll be some huge announcement, and then we'll look really stupid right now. More stupid than we do normally. But that's not hard to do. Next up is, of course, episode 100. Like I said, in the previous one and in this one, I think we've got something a little bit special coming up for 100. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. So do subscribe or follow all that good stuff for that. And obviously, thank you guys for being part of our 99 episode journey so far. Thank you boys for I've spent far too long with you guys. It's been nice to not have to spend any time with you. Once I press stop, I can go make a cup of tea and moan about you to my family. So all good stuff. As always, thank you all for tuning in. Follow us on all our socials. TikTok is absolutely booming at the moment. Just hit 1K. So if that's not a reason to follow, then what else is? Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.
Punches chance. Punches Chance Podcast.